Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to the show, Face the Nation GH, World Politics. First, let me apologize for being absent for 3 weeks. We are back on track. So we're going to start from the world news. We'll be breaking the trending issues. Then we'll focus on two major issues under the world politics. Immediately after the trending issues, you better discuss it. We'll actually focus on what is happening in the United States elections, the update on the U.S. elections. Then, after the update on the U.S. elections, we'll also focus on U.S. and Iran and Trump administration, its policies towards Iran. Pentagon reports $5 billion improper payment to civilian workforce. Most newly elected civilian pay discrepancies were due to missing documentation. That's not too good. Small but growing number of Republicans tell Donald Trump it's over. Stop golfing and concede defeat. I mean, you should expect this, especially this time around. Biden transition names first cabinet nominees. President-elect Joe Biden on Monday unveiled his nomination for top national security positions in his administration. I know the former Secretary of State, John Kerry, has been picked. Behind the scenes, Trump frustrated with his legal team's maneuvers. I know they cut ties with Powell. All right, let's get back to this issue. It's a very, very important issue. One, in as much as Iran is not a veto country or it's not among the 5 veto powers, Iran is a very influential country, not just in the Gulf, but in the world. Just last week, the IEA inspectors, after the observation, they concluded that Iran are increasing nuclear reactors any uranium as double no since our Trump withdrew from the 2015 JCPO agreement, So the commander-in-chief was briefed. When Trump was briefed, he instructed the U.S. Defense Command, and some of the options on the man was invade Iran nuclear site. But realizes this, or yeah, it could be a minimal strike, but some of them also hold on to the opinions. As Trump make it that move, and this what it be lead to a very big conflict between United States, Israel, and the allies of United States on the Gulf against Iran. And Iran is a very different country or a nation on its own. But you see, the Shia movement has actually vowed or pledged that anytime Iran is attacked, it means you've waged war against the Shia. So it's a very tough decision. A lot of people are thinking that from now to now to January 20th, I bet a new transition, assuming Trump will take over. Sorry, Joe Biden will take over now. Trump wants to use that opportunity to strike Iran nuclear capability. But yeah, people also believe that Trump strike Iran, it will get China, it will get Russia involved. More or less like World War III, because the other allies of United States may also come on board. And you know how the impact is going to have on our economy, especially where gas is concerned.
Around Iran. An Iranian nuclear scientist was recently blown up in his car. Iran is threatening to block the oil supply to the west. But what proof is there that Iran can produce nuclear arms? Is the country building a nuclear bomb? One thing is certain. If a war breaks out, Iran is ready.
We will teach them a lesson they'll never forget in the history.
Iran is a very prideful country, and they talk tough too.
The real centrifuge. This is one of the centrifuges from
At one breath, they are saying they don't have nuclear weapons. At one point, they are saying they are prepared for any war. I mean,
centrifuge and touch the centrifuge like this in any country, because even
This is Dr. Ali Ashar Soltani. He's the Iranian ambassador for the International Atomic Energy Agency. It's a UN agency supervising countries that work with nuclear energy.
And this is, by the way, the heavy water. The first heavy water made in Iran, 99.8% pure heavy water. Now, of course, we are producing tons.
The UN is putting pressure on Iran to stop its centrifuges and to stop making heavy water.
And this is
They are concerned that Iran might be working on a nuclear bomb.
The European, I brought it to show the whole world that this is the centrifuge of Iran, and they have to cope themselves with the reality.
Iran denies working on a bomb and has resolutely continued its nuclear program. It's quite an achievement. The program has had many setbacks. 5 Iranian nuclear experts have been blown up in their cars in broad daylight in the last 2 years.
see, Israel and the United States have embarked on a lot of preemptive actions against Iran.
But the Iranian ambassador claims to know who's been killing his scientists. He has to make an important call before sitting down to be interviewed. Meanwhile, we read the Christmas cards he sent this year, with a special message from the Supreme Leader himself. We wish you a world free of nuclear weapons.
Statues for you.
Pleasantries over. It's time to ask, who's killing the Iranian scientists?
Israel and Americans.
How do you know?
Because the people who have been captured have make a confession in Iranian media and televisions, and the people know. Therefore, Iranian intelligence, in fact, organizations have already captured them. They have made a confession that they were having training in United States and, of course, Israel particularly, and they have been involved directly in the assassination of our nuclear scientists.
This is Ronan Bergman, an expert on the Israeli Secret Service. He's an Israeli investigative reporter and author of The Secret War with Iran. Bergman claims not to know if Israel was behind the attacks, but he does think the war with Iran has already begun.
All units, military, intelligence, to some minor extent, the Shin Bet, the Internal Secret Service, and mostly Mossad are putting enormous effort. We're talking about thousands, actually thousands of people working daily on how to understand and maybe sabotage what is happening in the Iranian nuclear project.
Iran's brazen bid to develop nuclear weapons is certainly first and foremost a threat to my country, to Israel. But it's a threat to the entire region. It's a threat to the entire world. Israel thus expects the international community to act swiftly and to act decisively to thwart this danger. But we always reserve the right of self-defense.
Whether that includes killing Iranian scientists is not clear, but the message is.
Israel must always reserve the right to defend itself.
Does that mean Israel would actually attack Iran? Avner Cohen is a professor and an expert on Israel's military strategy. He says Netanyahu's rhetoric may result in a military confrontation.
Because once you create that kind of image, once you create that kind of perception, image and self-image, you cannot let that image destroy by showing yourself as a paper tiger. And once you make those kind of threats and those kind of clarification in a very bold language, Iran will not be allowed to be a nuclear weapon state. You come to the point that either you are being shown to be serious about what you've said, or you're being viewed as just empty words. And I believe that Israeli leaders at that kind of moment, especially the current Israeli leaders, Netanyahu and his Minister of Defense Barak, they would take action.
How would Iran respond when it came to a military attack by Israel?
My officials said we will slap on the face and a strong, of course, iron fist. We will teach them a lesson they never forget in the history.
How?
Well, of course, we are not going to explain how, but I'm sure that we will do something that whoever has done regret it, and the others would never forget in the history.
Now the moment of greatest anxiety, waiting those last few seconds.
Israel is convinced that Iran is building a nuclear bomb and finds it unacceptable. It's a perverse twist of fate, because had it been up to Israel, Iran would have had an atom bomb long ago. In the late 1970s, Iran was ruled by Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, a dictator with Western support, who celebrated his birthdays Korean style. Pahlavi crowned himself King of Kings, or Shah. The pro-Western Shah invested heavily in Israel.
Publicly, Iran was hesitant to declare official relations with Israel, but under the public radar, Iranian money was feeding tens of thousands of people in Israel. People, their relatives worked in the military industry, and Iran was buying billions and billions of dollars from the Israeli military, aerial, and other industries for their army.
The Shah had nuclear ambitions too, and Israel made him an offer.
Reading the
Okay, right now what we are seeing, okay, a couple of days ago, the United States Navy is trying to tell us that right now they've been able to launch an ICBM. They've been able to launch a defense ICBM from the ship, meaning on me as stop it an incoming ICBM might enter their mainland or any of their allies. Therefore, that serves as a threat to Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. Okay, in concluding on both US, Iran, and Israel, we all hope it doesn't happen because it's going to be very ugly. This is what is happening right now. Right now, it seems the Americans have deployed their B-50, their B-52 bombers on the Mediterranean, precisely on the Gulf.
B-52 bombers ordered by the White House.
Not necessarily to serve as a deterrent to the Iran, but it's clear indication that they have the intent to strike the place.
Force acknowledged Friday. Images released by the U.S. Air Force's Central Command show B-52H Stratofortress bombers arriving at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar on Thursday night. Others landed at an undisclosed location Wednesday in Southwest Asia, the Air Force said. The U.S. military in the past has described its presence at both the Al Hafar Air Base and the United Arab Emirates and Al Udeid as Southwest Asia. The Air Force identified the aircraft as coming from the 20th Bomb Squadron of Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. On Sunday, the White House announced it would send the USS Abraham Lincoln Aircraft Carrier Strike Group and the bombers into the Persian Gulf to counter Tehran. The Lincoln on Thursday passed through the Suez Canal on its way to the Persian Gulf. The administration of President Donald Trump has not offered specific details of the threat allegedly presented by Iran. On Wednesday, Iran announced that it would begin backing away from its nuclear deal with world powers, a year after Trump pulled America from the accord.
Satellite guided
President
2,000-pound
Hassan
bombs.
European
In
leaders
the
a
past,
60-day
it has also
deadline
carried
to find a way to shield
CBU-87
Iran from
combined
US
effects
sanctions,
munitions and
targeting its
CBU-90
economy
Gator
and oil
mine
industry.
dispensers.
Otherwise,
But
he said
submunition
Tehran would
dispensing
begin to
munitions are
enrich
being phased
uranium
out
at
in
levels
U.S.
closer to
inventories.
grade levels.
The bomber
That's the
also
B-52
carries
too.
M150
I mean, the moment you see these two bombers
with a range of up to
on a mission, it means they actually have an intent.
Trading with the country despite US sanctions.
Means there's something serious on its way coming.
Service standoff missile
Not offered any new plans.
JASSM and the
For
new
his part,
longer range
Trump said he wanted to speak to
JASSMER
Iran's
extended range.
What I would
Finally,
like to see
the
with
B-2
Iran,
can carry
I would
two
like to see them
30,000-pound,
come.
20-foot
Trump
long
told
massive
reporters
ordnance
Thursday.
penetrator, MOP, bombs for attacking hardened targets, one per weapons bay.
So the simple question is Iran ready for this? You see, Trump actually assured Iran that during his second term,
The B-2
Iran will be on its knees
strategic heavy bombers in U.S.
and plead for negotiation to be on the table.
originally conceived to infiltrate the Soviet air defense network and attack targets with nuclear weapons. Over the decades, its mission has grown to include conventional precision attack. The B-2 is the most advanced bomber in U.S. service, and the only one of three types that still carries nuclear gravity bombs.
That can take care of underground bunkers, you know.
In the late 1970s, the administration of President Jimmy Carter opposed a high-speed B-1A bomber as a waste of government money. Carter had been briefed on the new field of stealth technology and was responsible for the development of the F-117.
And those that follow international politics, you saw it. Just last week, Russia also deployed one of the advanced
bomber or stealth bomber.
defense technology to Iran, which is their X-500 I mean, I think Iran is the first country to receive this. So we are yet to see. As we are all saying, we hope it doesn't happen. But if it does, we'll see whether the S-500 can stop the B-50, can stop the B-2, because the B-2 is a stealth bomber. Anyway, on Iran, U.S., and Israel, as a lot of people I see anticipating, says Trump is likely so strike Iran before our free office in January 20th. No, I think that that's not what you will be anticipating, because already the elections, like I said, the election is in dispute. So I think it's some of the mainstream media are almost jumping to conclusion. But Iran has always been on their table. I think the Trump crumble has exercised quite restraint when it comes to dealing with Iran or most of his foreign policies, especially with Russia. Russia will prefer to have Trump as a second term. Then even China, that you can now see what is happening in the South China Sea. Because Trump's policy towards these people, in as much as you may think is an aggressive, he hasn't actually shown any intent. Recently, Biden has I don't want to say he has threatened China, but he intends to move more missiles to China. He really wants to go hard on China, though.
Did win the opportunity to build another stealth test bed, Tacit Blue. Tacit Blue featured 360-degree stealth, a must-have for a penetrating strategic bomber. Engineers had long known that flying wings had a minimal radar signature, and flying wings were a Northrop specialty. The company had produced 4 flying wings, the Northrop N9M, the XB-35 and YB-49, and the YB-49A. None had been picked up by the Air Force, but it gave Northrop a great deal of experience with the aircraft form. A flying wing properly shaped to further confound radar and use of advanced composite materials would create the ultimate penetration bomber, undetectable by radar.
It's going to be only.
All right, let's get to the main topic for the day. Under the world politics, let's talk about the U.S. election. An update on the U.S. elections.
We will not fail. Our country will thrive and prosper again. This moment is your moment. It belongs to you.
Former Vice President Joe Biden announced his candidacy in late April of 2019, and following a Democratic primary season unlike any other, it was...
On November 3rd, the United States actually went back to the traditional route of selecting their leaders. In summary, after the traditional vote, prior to that, normally what we call mail-in votes. The 9th, which is Tuesday night on the 3rd November, per projections, Donald Trump was winning the elections. Then, the next morning, they saw that the figures started changing. Now, under normal circumstances, out of the 560, you need 270 electoral college votes, and ultimately lead the country. Trump here projections, even though he can't declare the elections for himself, as at Tuesday night, we believe he's going to win elections now. For the past 3 weeks or 2 weeks, this is what has been going on. Then, the next morning, things started changing. Joe Biden also came with the projection. As at Tuesday going, he was also winning the elections. And now, after the election, this is how the framers of the Constitution actually envision. Because of institutional issues, human difficulties, after November elections, they give you up to December for you to send for various states, the 50 states, Obia Electoral College Board, ebe send the elections, satisfy elections, to Congress for final approval. Then from December to January 20th, they do the transition. But the only say, assembly were elections in that period, they address your grievances. And this is what happened. After some more year elections, now Trump are raising concerns. There's a lot of concerns now raising on some of the states, like Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan, and even right now, California has also been on the list. How some of the state courts be dismissing Trump claims on TRO. Injunctions now will declare for them to stop the counting. I mean, some of us even envisioned that they were not going to grant him because that's not how the system works. Forget about your complaints. Let the political side goes on. After results, Nibana will issue use the court system to correct it. Now, court system need be attending of the cases, Fine. Some of them also ruled in favor of him. Right now, we're challenging issues on voter fraud. We're challenging issues on dead people voting. Then software glitch. That is the main issue right now. Pennsylvania alone have about 20 electoral college votes, or says seats. I bet me so much impact on the outcome of the elections. Now, Pennsylvania court denied Trump because the last rate of filing was to stop the Pennsylvania electoral body from satisfying the results. No, I'm saying no, they won't do that. So the next thing is that Trump is heading to the United States Supreme Court. We saw that in 2000 election between Gore and Bush. The United States Supreme Court stopped the Florida, and within 26, 27 days, then they did a recount. Recounting it, and this was Bush, who was losing, actually Eba the elections, But you see, in as much as they are all electoral dispute or issues, it seems that circumstances are very different. In two share Trump and Joe Biden issue now a different. Now, clarify the transition will go on. Trump cannot stop the transition, and there's no doubt. The transition will go on, but the mere first transition does not necessarily mean we need legitimate concerns or claims. The United States Supreme Court finally also all claims are. That's they need to me overturning the outcome of the elections are. Trump will be sworn in again. In as much as he says that does not mean it cannot happen. There is also another option whereby Trump me appear before the United States Congress, both the Senate and House of Representatives, and they can also decide who will lead the country. The Pennsylvania court decline, it deny a dismissal in the claim, as at Friday, Sunday, you file another claim. It was Supreme Court, United States Appeals Court. Say also overturn here, and I say also move really against him. Then his option is to go to the United States Supreme Court, and that's what they think. You see, they have more confidence in the Supreme Court because you see, these issues being addressed in the local courts, they are not too comfortable with what is happening. So some of the states, ABA or more addresses are electoral issues, Pennsylvania, all eyes on Pennsylvania, and now California also issues so about become assistance right now. I think the lawyers need to be falling apart, but there are still some of them are more happy with the claim. But you see, one thing I want everybody to understand: the mere fact the person is challenging the election does not mean or disturb the democratic processes. Even learned lawyers, I don't know how almost tackle this issue. You don't know the evidence at the person's disposal. You don't know the facts and what gather. They are so quick to judge, and they've come to conclusions. Say Trump is the one all embarrassing the United States. How is he embarrassing the United States? Look, you heard what Joe Biden says. Also, democracy can be very messy. Even if you should go by that, it should clearly tells you. Say, Oma practice Oma there for a very long time now. They know how it works, and they understand the system more than us. So I personally believe we should all be patient. What do you assume? You must say only claim be so hit it. That's all rich it. Or to me, like who say institutions in our farm, there is nothing that he can do. American system will not accept anybody be our best who poses himself to be a tyrant. Look, the systems are well defined, the institutions are well defined, but the kind of pressure and the media pressure now will mount on him to concede defeat, you know. Indeed, so assuming all legitimate concerns are, that's how you address it now. Then it becomes a canker. Forever, it's going to be an issue. Therefore, the institutions and the media will decide for the people, but the actual sovereignty of the Americans will be subverted, which shouldn't be the case. So, now, Yenfa Bibi Bianto, Trump is back on the stage. India non litigate 20th. We will see, say, inauguration will happen. We don't know what the Congress will do, but where the transition in India is going to take place. Right now, some on the breaking news, you know, on the trending issues, you know, Joe Biden has started making appointments. I heard Trump, what they told me Twitter, say, he doesn't even understand why I say Joe Biden is, because Joe Biden, who said Trump will not raise legitimate concern, but so, yeah, appointments. You see, a human nature. Trump should understand. Said Biden bet me all forms of appointments, but then the court system need to be finding out, say, indeed, the concern no reason or claims are Joe Biden will not be a certain president. So let us not be quick to judge. Let us respect the democratic processes, and let us respect rule of law, and let us accept the tenets of democracy.
This race is to become nationwide. The race in South Carolina is also too early to call.
Surprising given
Only
that we have
4% of the vote
Florida
is
man
statewide.
in the White House. There is no election chaos in Florida. Why did Florida get its act together while smaller states took days and even weeks to finalize their votes, and the vote is still currently ongoing? Because Florida let counties start counting early votes and mailed ballots 22 days before the election day. And while this seems like basic common sense, not all states took this common sense, dare I say, Floridian approach to vote counting. So while the counting continues, President Trump and his campaign and affiliated groups have filed several lawsuits challenging many aspects of the voting process in the 2020 election. So today we are going to examine how these election lawsuits work. Do any of the Trump campaign's lawsuits stand a chance of getting to the Supreme Court? And are any of these lawsuits going to change the outcome of the election? Hey, Legal Eagles, it's time to think like the Trump campaign's lawyers. As we've talked about many times on this channel, you can sue anyone for anything at any time for any reason in America. But those claims need to have a legal basis, and eventually you'll need to provide evidence. Otherwise, those lawsuits will be thrown out. Now, maybe I am an institutionalist big firm lawyer, but I think there is a silver lining to all of these lawsuits, whether they have merit or not. There are a lot of people who have doubts about the 2020 process in general. And the courts have mechanisms for dealing with both meritorious claims and frivolous claims. And if the claims are frivolous, then they will be thrown out. And if they have merit, then the courts will fashion a remedy. And I think that if the shoe was on the other foot, that it was clear that the Trump campaign had won the election, Democrats would want to know if there was foul play involved or not. And that's what the system is designed to do. But as it happens, Joe Biden is the putative president-elect, and it appears that Donald Trump is going to be a one-term president, which means that the balance of the lawsuits are going to come from the Trump campaign in an attempt to, if not outright change the outcome of the election, then at least take a deeper dive and, let's say, graciously make sure that everything was on the up and up. Now, before we dig into these different state lawsuits, it's important to recognize that every state has a different law when it comes to how the elections are going to be run. Some require that ballots have to be received before election day. Some have a law that say as long as the ballot...
All right, let me conclude on this election dispute. This is what is going to happen. Various states will regulate elections. In the states are almost raising concerns, almost raising red flags. Now, they would challenge those issues at almost state courts. So state courts, a failure, they can go to the federal court because the state claims normal reason. Where there are constitutional issues, they can go straight to United States Supreme Court. But this is procedurally, this is how it works. Some of the claims in Ibinzo or Onoma, you still have to respect the procedure. That's all because state courts, and then you find any of the United States District Court. Anytime you hear district court, they're talking about federal courts. So you go to the federal courts. If you are unable to get remedy, then you go to the appellate section or the federal appeals courts. There, if it doesn't go on your favor, then you can head to the United States Supreme Court. When you file the writ of certiorari and they accepted, your case will be heard. And most of these issues, say legitimate issues in court, will give you that opportunity to be heard. And you have your day in court. That's what I'm saying. Say what it is right now. I need any pursue those frustrations or those pocket resistance in the which you anticipate them. Say transition team is not cooperating with the current Trump administration. Yeah, you should expect this. It will happen. But not say I best stop a transition. Because you see, right now you look at the court position, you look at the political side. Under the political, you see the influence of the executive playing its role. Then you also see the legislative body also playing its role. OSHA 3 processes and about happen. Simple court in United man a remedy. As of Sunday, some group of Republicans, the United States Congress, are filing claims say they will reject the certification from states now issued concern about electoral issues. So it should tell you that there's a long way of litigation. But it's not or not. But all in all, they will use the state institutions to correct it. We've seen John Bolton being very influential. This was the Secretary of Defense that Donald Trump fired or resigned. Let me put it that way. Now he's on most of the anti-Republican media houses are all champion strong campaign. Say Trump embarrass the country. Look, some of them, you don't expect them to talk this way. Either they have their own personal grudge or they have their own personal issues. Let's separate that from that intellectual argument. So it does not necessarily mean that this is the time as I vent differences with the person. Okay? And then almost mature constitution in moment. Mum and give you that leeway and say obi challenge electoral results are not disputed. It simply means any part in the embarrass the country, It is not, that's not the way it is, and that's not the way it should be. Look, let's respect democratic processes, let's respect the tenets of democracy, and let's be very patient and see how it turns out to be. Tomorrow under Face the Nation GH, under the world news, a very important topic. I have to do whether the United States Congress, precisely the House of Representatives and the House and the Senate, can declare a winner or choose a commander-in-chief for the United States Armed Forces. And if that happens, then what happened with the sovereign will of the people? So you better address it. I will say a very good evening to everybody. 3 years of break wasn't easy. We are back. As I always say, Face the Nation G. We do the foreign politics, then we do the local version. That's from Monday to Thursday.
Heard other polls. They could change the date on ballots when they were received and entering them into the computer. And when you're asking for extraordinary relief, like what a lot of these election lawsuits are asking for, you need to have generally